Walked out because I don't what you praying for, because you sitting over there like you don't got no remorse. Like every time I walk in, you smiling. This ain't the time for that. This case is...
Now Melly has been embroiled in severe legal issues for years, with the prospect of a death sentence hanging over him, but his case isn't the only one making news. Fans are worried after seeing recent video of him in court go viral, and it's not just about how untidy he looks. Let's go back in time to February of 2019. Authorities accused Florida rapper YNW Melly, whose real name is Jamal Demons, and his friend, YNW Borton, of committing 2 first-degree murders. Henry planned their own friends' murders and framed the incident to seem like a drive-by shooting before making a horrifying and terrifying allegation. Melly appears in court on June 2, 2023, not for a new song but for his well-publicized trial, in which he pleads not guilty. Although Melly made another court appearance and flashed his typical smile for the cameras, one particular moment from his previous trial has resurfaced, drawing criticism in the footage. Melly appears to pray before blowing a kiss, a gesture that didn't sit well with the victim's mother so much that she left the courtroom. However, in a surprising turn of events, the judge declares a mistrial, but the case is far from over. He is scheduled to return to court in the fall, where a guilty verdict could result in the death penalty. It is considered quite disrespectful in the courts. And my determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. YNW Melly is still stuck in jail while his legal fight gets more intense. His lawyers are trying to stop certain phone calls from being used in court. Specifically, they want to block conversations between Borland's girlfriend, Juna Molina, and his co-defendant, YNW Bortland. The defense argues that these calls are just casual talks that have nothing to do with the case and shouldn't be used against Melly. Court documents.
The determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. Shooters at a stationary position.
Obtained by Hip Hop DX, show that Melly's attorneys insist these conversations hold no real value to the trial. They claim the calls are simply meaningless chatter and shouldn't be considered as evidence. Meanwhile, Melly's living situation has changed. He has been moved from Broward County Jail to the Paul Rain Detention Facility in Pompano Beach, Florida. This facility has much stricter security, meaning Melly has very little freedom to move around. Inmates there are closely monitored, and visitors are only allowed under strict conditions. Even the items they can bring are limited to non-breakable materials. Back in January, Judge John J. Murphy III made it clear that he was done tolerating any more delays. He scheduled Melly's retrial for March 5th, or as soon as the court could fit it in. The judge also pointed out that Melly had already spent more than 1,850 days in jail waiting for his trial, which is an unusually long time. Despite this, the retrial still hasn't started, leaving everyone on edge. The situation is especially tense because the prosecution still has the death penalty on the table, meaning if Melly is found guilty, he could face the harshest possible punishment. Melly, whose real name is Jamal Demons, was first arrested in 2019 for the alleged murders of his 2 friends, YNW Juve, Christopher Thomas Jr., and YNW Sackchaser, Anthony Williams. Prosecutors claim that Melly and Bortland staged the crime to look like a drive-by shooting, but Melly has maintained his innocence from the start. His first trial, which took place in 2023, ended in a mistrial after the jury couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. That's why he's now facing a retrial. And this time, the stakes are even higher. The prosecution believes they have stronger evidence this time around. They are pushing to use Melly's text messages, social media activity, and even some of his song lyrics to build their case. The defense, however, is fighting back, saying that much of this so-called evidence is being taken out of context and doesn't prove anything. They argue that the state is using Melly's career as a rapper against him, painting him as guilty simply because of his music. Melly supporters continue to rally behind him, with many believing he's being unfairly targeted. His family and legal team have repeatedly stated that he deserves a fair trial and that the delays have only made things worse for him. The longer he waits behind bars, the more difficult his situation becomes. As of now, the retrial remains on hold, and there's no clear answer as to when it will officially begin. For Melly, every day in jail is another day of uncertainty. The upcoming trial will determine not only his future but possibly his life, making it one of the most high-profile cases in the hip-hop world right now. A month prior to his arrest, the then 19-year-old Melly, who was from Gifford, Florida, had released his mixtape We All Shine, which featured Kanye West. His hit song, Murder on My Mind, was going viral, reaching gold status in January 2019 and eventually 6 times platinum by 2022. However, everything changed on October 26, 2018, the night Melly and his crew YNW sacked Chaser W. Juvie. Hours after sacking Chaser and Juvie, Christopher Thomas Jr. and YNW Borton were in a recording studio. Were discovered dead. Police deemed the tale strange, particularly as Melly and Borland appeared in a music video the next day as if nothing had occurred on February 13, 2019, even though Portland took their corpses to the hospital and claimed they were victims of a drive-by shooting. Melly was taken into custody and charged with grave offenses. Prosecutors claim he was the one who fired the gun, and Borton assisted in staging the incident to hide it. If found guilty, Melly may be sentenced to life in jail or the death penalty, yet despite all, Melly is still. He has been defiant and has repeatedly declared his innocence. He once took to social media to say, "Unfortunately, a lot of rumors and lies are being said, but no worries, God is with me." That post was later removed, but it is evident that no matter how serious this case gets, Melly will not allow his spirit to break since his arrest yesterday. The hip-hop world has overwhelmingly supported Melly, with well-known figures sticking by him. One of the most visible voices expressing affection is Atlanta's own Future, who on Melly's 20th birthday posted on Instagram, "Free my little brother." Melly's narrative is a public display of unity, but not everyone agrees with the Insack family. Chaser is adamantly opposed to Melly, stating in a statement to TMZ that they fully support the state's decision regardless of its outcome. Their representative said, "If the state of Florida feels the death penalty is warranted in this case, then we 100% fully support it." Melly should experience the same level of fear and panic that he so intentionally and viciously inflicted upon his. It's a strong statement to say that innocent victims, without a doubt. The prosecution used digital evidence at the first trial to show that Melly had confessed via Instagram messages on October 26, 2018, the night of the murders. Melly allegedly texted a man named Pay Gambino, asking him if he was okay. Melly allegedly replied, "I did that, shush." Stuart Adelstein.
No one ever thought that Johnny Cash was going to shoot a man in Reno just to watch him die, or Bob Marley shot a sheriff but spared it.
The crime scene itself was another important piece of evidence, as it was claimed that surveillance footage showed Melly and his crew entering a Jeep prior to the shooting. When police discovered that Chaser and Juvie were inside the vehicle, dead from gunshot wounds, a ballistic analysis suggested that the bullets were fired from inside the car. This was in addition to the fact that Melly had used the standard spelling in other texts and even in his song Melly the Menace. Despite this, the case isn't completely clear-cut. The murder weapon was never found, and Melly didn't have any gunpowder residue on her, leaving room for suspicion. Nevertheless, the evidence keeps mounting, making this one of the most intense and contentious trials in hip-hop history. No one ever thought that a Johnny Cash was going to shoot a man and in Reno just to watch him die, or Bob. Prosecutors have been attempting to persuade jurors throughout the trial that Marley shot a sheriff but spared a deputy. Gang expert Danny Polo was called to testify during the trial to discuss YNW Melly's alleged ties to the G Shine Bloods gang. According to Polo, Melly frequently used coded language associated with the gang, including the term herc, which is similar to saying bro or guy. To support these claims, the prosecution presented images and text messages that seemed to suggest the murders may have been connected to gang activity. However, they couldn't prove exactly how the gang would have benefited from the crime. FBI Special Agent Brendan Collins testified that phone records showed Melly and members of YNW were in the area near the crime scene on the night of the murders. However, he admitted that he couldn't pinpoint their exact locations at all times. Investigators relied on phone data to track Melly's movements, but because his phone's location services were turned off, it was difficult to trace him precisely. Despite this, security footage helped law enforcement follow his actions, including a crucial moment when he was picked up by fellow rapper Fredo Bang after the incident. Forensic evidence also played a key role in the case. BSO DNA analyst Kurt Ross examined several items found inside the Jeep where the shooting occurred, including a water bottle and a spent shell casing. However, none of these items provided a clear DNA link to Melly. The prosecution, though, presented a significant finding. A partial DNA sample that could belong to Melly was discovered on the rear passenger side door handle. This is particularly important because investigators believe the fatal shots were fired from that exact position inside the vehicle. As the retrial approaches, Florida prosecutors are pushing to use a large portion of Melly's music as evidence. They argue that his lyrics and music videos contain references to violence and gang activity, which they believe could help prove his involvement in the crime. While the defense may challenge this approach, the prosecution is determined to use every piece of available evidence to strengthen their case against the rapper. The trial continues to attract widespread attention as fans and legal experts debate the strength of the prosecution's case. With gang allegations, forensic evidence, and music lyrics all being brought into the courtroom, the outcome of the retrial remains uncertain. The defense is expected to argue that there is no definitive proof linking Melly to the crime, while the prosecution will work to convince the jury that the rapper played a direct role in the tragic events that unfolded that night. Murder on My Mind is one of the 55 songs, 18 audio files, 14 YouTube videos, and 4 album covers that are included in the extensive archive of Melly's work, according to court filings recently filed by Miami Herald Broward County Prosecutor Alexander Buckaloo. Considering the facts of the case, Melly's most well-known song is Spooky. Although the use of rap lyrics as evidence in criminal cases is not new, it is nonetheless quite contentious. Although lyrics by themselves cannot prove guilt, they may influence jurors' opinions and perhaps, in recent years, prosecutors have started using rap lyrics as evidence in criminal cases, a move that has sparked major controversy. Instead of focusing on solid physical proof, they argue that song lyrics can reveal a suspect's mindset and possible motives. However, many critics say this approach is unfair and plays into racial stereotypes, making it seem like rappers are criminals simply because of the violent themes in their music. This issue is now a major part of YNW Melly's retrial, where prosecutors are attempting to use his lyrics to suggest a connection to gang activity. But whether the jury will accept this argument is still unclear. This same debate has been a key factor in another high-profile case, the ongoing YSL RICO trial involving rapper Young Thug. Prosecutors claim that Young Thug and other members of the Young Slime Life (YSL) collective were not just artists but part of a violent street gang. In May of last year, Young Thug, Gunna, and over 24 alleged YSL members were indicted on serious charges, including conspiracy to commit crimes such as murder, armed robbery, and assault. According to the prosecution, YSL wasn't just a music label, it was a criminal organization operating under the disguise of the rap industry. The grand jury indictment was massive, spanning 88 pages and listing 182 different crimes that allegedly took place over several years. Among the evidence presented were rap lyrics that prosecutors claimed proved YSL's involvement in criminal activities. In fact, Young Thug's lyrics were specifically mentioned in 10 different instances as part of the alleged conspiracy. This legal strategy has drawn backlash, with many arguing that it unfairly targets hip-hop artists and criminalizes their creativity. All 28 defendants in the case were charged under Georgia's RICO, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, a law designed to prosecute organized crime by showing a pattern of illegal activity for financial gain. While some of the accused took plea deals, 6 of them, including Young Thug, chose to fight the charges in court. Their trial officially began on November 27 in Atlanta. This case has sparked widespread debate, not just about the legal system but also about how hip-hop culture is treated in courtrooms. Many argue that if a country singer writes about guns or violence, it's seen as entertainment, but when a rapper does it, it's treated as a confession. Others believe that if someone brags about committing crimes in their music, those lyrics should be fair game as evidence. As both the YNW Melly and YSL cases unfold, the legal system is being forced to confront difficult questions. Should artistic expression be used in criminal trials? Where is the line between storytelling and self-incrimination? And are black artists being unfairly targeted in a way that musicians from other genres are not? These trials could set a precedent for how rap lyrics are treated in the legal system moving forward, and is anticipated to continue for the most of the year. Rap lyrics have already been used in court. In 2012, a judge in Louisiana permitted the inclusion of lyrics from 187 in Lil Boo's 2014 murder trial. Although Bobby Shmurda's popular song Hot wasn't officially referenced as evidence in his gang-related case, it was closely examined, according to Vulture. "I'm guilty for where I live, and I was never part of any gang," Shmurda said in irritation. Other noteworthy examples include Drow the Ruler, whose songs were used as a weapon. Although both Boosie and Dro were eventually found not guilty, the use of rap lyrics in trials remains a major point of controversy. Many critics argue that presenting lyrics as evidence unfairly influences jurors, often reinforcing racial stereotypes against Black and Latino defendants. This debate became even more heated in 2020 when Maryland's highest court ruled that rap lyrics could be used in a murder trial. Veteran attorney Dina Leal strongly criticized the decision, calling it racist and warning that it set a dangerous legal precedent. The issue isn't new. In 2019, federal prosecutors referenced rapper 6ix9ine In's music in a gang-related case against him. Later that same year, his lyrics were used as evidence in a murder trial, further fueling concerns that hip-hop artists are being unfairly targeted in the legal system. Critics argue that while musicians in other genres can write about violence without facing legal consequences, rappers are often treated as if their lyrics are direct confessions of real crimes. In response to this growing concern, several major figures in hip-hop, including Jay-Z, have taken a stand against the use of lyrics as evidence in court. Jay-Z and other artists have publicly supported Senate Bill S-7527, also known as the Rap Music on Trial Bill. This New York legislation aims to recognize rap as a legitimate form of artistic expression and limit how it can be used in criminal trials. The goal is to prevent prosecutors from unfairly using lyrics to paint artists as criminals without solid evidence of wrongdoing. The bill was first introduced in November 2020, and on October 12, 2021, it passed the Senate Codes Committee, moving it one step closer to becoming law. It has since gained widespread support from hip-hop artists, legal experts, and civil rights activists who believe it could serve as a model for other states facing similar legal battles. Jay-Z's attorney, Alex Spiro, has been vocal about the importance of this issue. He emphasized that Jay-Z and many other artists are deeply invested in this fight, not just for themselves but for future generations of musicians. As a New York native, Jay-Z understands how powerful rap music is as a form of storytelling, and he has committed to using his influence to help push for change. In a letter backing the bill, Spiro, along with Quinn Emanuel law firm partner Eric Nielsen and University of Richmond professor Eric Nielsen, highlighted the dangers of allowing rap lyrics to be used as evidence in court. Nielsen, who co-wrote the book Rap on Trial with Andrea Dennis, a law professor at the University of Georgia, argued that this legislation is a necessary step in protecting artists from legal discrimination. They believe that if New York passes this bill, it could inspire other states to follow suit and set a new legal standard for how artistic expression is treated in criminal cases. As the debate over rap lyrics in court continues, many are watching closely to see what happens next. Will the legal system start recognizing rap as an art form rather than a confession? Or will prosecutors continue to use lyrics as a way to build cases against artists, even when there is little to no direct evidence of a crime? The outcome of this fight could have lasting effects on both the music industry and the justice system. Not only would amending the law benefit the instances who are directly impacted, but it will also signal that improvement is on the horizon. Fat Joe also contributed to the campaign by telling Rolling Stone in 2022 that, like any other genre, rap is a creative way to express oneself, and that our lyrics should be seen as art rather than used against us. Before his terrible death in 2021, the abuse of rap lyrics in court had serious repercussions. I hope New York politicians see this and take the proper action by adopting the measure. Prosecutors used lyrics from Draco the Ruler's song Flex Freestyle to build a case against him, and he was sentenced to 3 years in jail. Authorities acknowledged that he didn't shoot, but they maintained that his rhymes implied he planned an assault on RJ, another rapper who wasn't even there, as he reflected on his experience. Dro added that although I had heard of them doing this before, it was crazy and nonsensical how they misrepresented what I had said. One of the bill's main supporters, New York State Senator Jamal Bailey, wants to place in. He emphasized that presuming guilt based just on creative expression is a violation of basic rights and, if approved, fosters institutional racism. He called for a stop to these practices by forcing prosecutors to clearly link lyrics to a crime before using them as evidence. This law may be a significant step in preserving creative freedom and guaranteeing hip-hop musicians fair trials. Senator Jamal Bailey brought attention to the institutionalized racism within the criminal justice system, highlighting the ways in which rap and hip-hop are. A legal expert pointed out how rap music is often unfairly linked to crime, and this bias can have serious consequences, especially in high-profile cases like YNW Melly's. Because of the complexities surrounding his case, Melly has now spent more than 750 days in jail while waiting for his trial. His lawyers have fought to get him released on bond, arguing that he shouldn't have to sit behind bars for so long without a conviction. However, prosecutors strongly opposed his release, saying that the severity of the charges and the risk that he might try to flee were enough reasons to keep him locked up. In the end, the judge sided with the prosecution, and Melly remained in jail. There were several reasons why Melly's case dragged on for so long. Gathering and analyzing evidence took time, and the COVID-19 pandemic slowed everything down even more. As the legal battle stretched on, public opinion became divided. Many of Melly's fans and supporters believed he should have been granted bond, arguing that he hadn't been proven guilty and was being treated unfairly. Others, however, felt that because the charges were so serious, he should remain in custody until a verdict was reached. Melly's situation is similar to that of another young rapper whose career was overshadowed by legal troubles, Tay K, whose real name is Tamer Trayvon McIntyre. Legal issues have spurred conversations about justice, accountability, and the thin line between artistic expression and real-life repercussions. Persona in the race became a crucial piece of evidence against him in court. It is still unclear whether his case will result in a conviction or an acquittal. Be seen, but there is little doubt that his future is in jeopardy. His run from the law ended abruptly on June 30, 2017, when U.S. Marshals apprehended him in Elizabeth, New Jersey, ending a dramatic fugitive saga that had captivated the country. However, Tay's legal troubles were far from over in July 2019, when he was found guilty of murder and 3 other charges. His viral success with the race not only brought him into the public eye but also brought a harsh light on the grim reality of his alleged crimes and the victims left in their wake. Accusations of aggravated robbery connected to the 2016 home invasion that killed Ethan Walker resulted in a heavy sentence of 55 years for the murder charge with additional time for the robbery convictions. In November 2019, he was indicted again for the murder of Mark Saliva, for which he could be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole or even the death penalty. Prosecutors are cautious of a repeat of Tak's persistent opposition to YNW Melly's release, and his protracted pre-trial detention has caused a great deal of public discussion and raised questions about the judicial system's impartiality. His case is now a shining illustration of the problems with pre-trial detention, especially for well-known defendants who are charged with severe crimes. Melly's lengthy on the one hand, being behind bars has given his defense team more time to make their case, but on the other, he has had to deal with the terrible realities of jail, including the uncertainty, loneliness, and mental strain that public opinion is still divided. His supporters have started petitions, social media campaigns, and hashtags like #CRAFreeMelly, arguing that he is being punished before being found guilty and should be granted bond while awaiting trial. They see his extended detention as an injustice, a system unfairly targeting him without a conviction, while his critics highlight the seriousness of the situation. His music career has also suffered as a result of waiting years for trial, without touring, recording, or any way to capitalize on the momentum he once had. Allegations and the potential danger he poses if made public, they contend that public safety must come first and that the victims and their families should get justice.